How's everyone doing? Welcome to my first ever stream on YouTube and Twitch. All right. My name is Jordan Kensington. This is the first time I'm doing this. Never done this before. And the title of this first show is called "Is It a Good Idea to Start a Business in 2025?" And the main title of the show is actually called Business versus Religion. Is it a good idea to start a business in 2025? I'm sat in the office, and obviously, first stream, just keeping it very casual. It's a Sunday evening. And the first thing I'll say is when it comes to business, I've been in business for several years, like literally about 28 years. And um, I have observed a lot of shifts in the industry from when I came into business in the 90s. That was when Tim Berners-Lee's internet, which we call the World Wide Web, was just kind of getting prominence. Everybody was kind of like saying, hey, what's going to happen like to the internet? Is it going to take away jobs? Is it going to take away business opportunities? And I mean, the good thing is we actually, right, we went through that generation of internet. You know, a lot of companies became extremely successful. People made loads of millions. And in 2000 actually, the millennium, there was like an internet bust because all these companies that had grown spontaneously and just made so much money just combusted because they couldn't keep up. And I think the same thing is kind of happening as we go into 2025. We're 2 months to the end of the year, and we're going from 2024 into 2025. And a lot of people are kind of concerned. When I speak to, a lot of friends and family, they're just always concerned about AI. So this AI thing is a big thing, and there's all these conversations about, is AI going to take away jobs? This kind of reminds me of 2020, 2000s, the 90s, early, late 90s when, internet was kind of like kicking it. And I just feel like that's why my master theme is business versus religion, because I feel like you do have to have God in you as you move into the next year and as you move into new things and developments within the world. During the times of the internet, as a business, 28 years of business, I could say my faith kept me going. How we successfully expanded the business into loads of countries was because we felt like our CEO was God. We had faith in us. We put prayers first. We made sure before we made any move, we kind of consulted with scripture. We made sure we actually said, do you know what? Is this the right move we're making? I just realized I need to be watching straight into the camera. I'm literally new to this. And you know what? I'm gonna learn. It's everything is about learning. All right. So as I was saying, we kind of, as we grew as a company, it was all about, hey, you need God to succeed in business the same way you need God to succeed in a relationship, the same way you need God to succeed in your finances, the same way you need God to succeed at university. It doesn't stop because the world you're living in is created in a game-like structure. It's like you're inside a kind of video game, and it is against you, right? Because look, you don't get taught in school how to win the game. Right? The life is a game. The business of life is my whole YouTube channel. And I always say you don't get taught how to win the game. You get taught how to be a slave in the game. And this applies to whether you are working for someone or you have a business. It doesn't matter. Like a lot of people say, oh, do you know what? I got out of the game. I got out of the game. I'm an entrepreneur. I got out of the game. There is still, you're still working at the mercy of your client, right? So getting out of the game is not just becoming an entrepreneur. Getting out of the game is not just, hey, in the 90s, finding out about how to crack the internet. Getting out of the game in 2025 is not just launching and starting a business. Getting out of the game is not just saying, all right, AI is here, there's chat GPT, there's all these tools that we can use to kind of fast track our way into making our business a success. For me, I don't think that's getting out of the game. I think getting out of the game is to transcend spiritually. If you're not able to transcend spiritually, you're lost, right? I think that's the most important thing. I think we live in a very materialistic world that there are people that are not satisfied with what they have. And it's on all levels, right? Someone wanted to be famous. They wanted to be told the whole world. Now they're famous. They've told the whole world. They want more fame. They want more fame and more fame. Someone wanted to be a millionaire. I remember the first time we made millions as a company. A lot of people, I remember we had an interview. I had an interview with CNN, and they were interviewing us about how we successfully launched the company in the UK and the US simultaneously and expanded, and how we did it, you know. And I remember the CNN interviewer, Jim Bolden, asking me, and his question was, what's next? What are you going to do next? And yes, of course, we expanded as a business. We expanded into 15 more territories. But the question was, it was always, what's next? What's next? Right? Like, and that's the thing that I feel like there's nothing wrong with ambition. There's nothing wrong with thinking, you know, there is other levels to this game. But where you get lost in the source is you get lost in the game. You get lost in just always chasing the carrot, right? It's always chasing the carrot. And I think you get to chase the carrot until you get to a certain age and you look at it and just think, oh, do you know what? It was all a lie. I wasted my time. And I feel like that's what happens. For example, I mean, one of the companies I launched years ago was the Urban Music Awards. So I really know about the music industry. And I think that's what happens a lot more in the music industry, for example, where, you know, you have artists that start from nothing. They come from very, poor backgrounds, and then they end up becoming multimillionaires and becoming so famous. But then they worked so hard to get there. They sacrificed so much. They did things that they didn't want to do to get to where they got to. And they got all this money sat in the bank, 100 millions, 200 million in the bank. They're so famous. They have 60 million fans following them, and they feel depressed, you know? Recently you heard the story of, rest in peace, Liam Payne from One Direction. I did a video about it on my YouTube, just, apparently, allegedly, taking pink and cocaine, taking drugs and then jumping out of a window or being pushed out of the window. We don't know, right? The question is, why does this keep happening? It happened to Amy Winehouse. It happened to Marvin. I mean, the list goes on. You question yourself, why does this keep happening, right? It's not just in the music industry. It's in the business industry as well. It's in politics. It's in the entire industry. So you got to ask yourself, what's going on? Is it that we've been sold a lie, or is it that we don't understand how to live in a balance? Living in a balance is completely different from chasing the carrot. So I really, really believe that that's the way you're going to find full happiness if you start living in a balance. So when we're talking about, is it a good idea to launch a business in 2025? I think it's a good idea if you have the right motives. I repeat, it's a good idea if you have the right motives. Let's go. And I'm going to break through 10 top ways of launching a business with the right motives and making sure it's successful in 2025. I think it's a pretty decent live stream as we start, all right? And I think number one is think of the current climate we live in. Think of AI. Think of the world we are actually in. A few days ago, in fact, 2 days ago, the BRICS countries who've got together have just announced that they are now legitimizing their new currency, the BRICS currency, which will be their legal tender. Right. So this BRICS is, if you don't know, is a coalition of different countries, including China, South Africa. Ethiopia has just joined now, Russia, and a few other really, really big countries. And the whole idea for them is to move away from the dollar. And if everyone knows, most of currency all across the world has been backed by dollars. And that's the reason why, on a basic level, for the simplest level, if you are creating any financial instrument or fintech company or website or anything else, your default currency is always the dollars, because every currency has been pegged by the dollars. It was the strongest currency in the world, and it was the lead currency when it came to trading. Things have changed, right? America is not the America that it used to be, right? Some people say for good reasons, some other people say time will tell. The whole point is Rome's gonna fall, right? No matter whether the empire is the biggest empire in the world, what goes up must come down. There's going to be a time that everybody who goes extremely up comes down if you're not living in a balance, if there is no balance, right? So I think one of the most important things I've just realized, that my name is spelled wrong on this live stream, but it's all right. We're live, so that's not a problem at all. But yeah, it's Kensington with an H. But yeah, so I really, really, really believe that there are things that we can do to make sure we're successful in business. So number one, I always say think of the time that we're living in today. Think of what you can do that correlates with AI, right? I'm not saying completely right. Embrace AI, because I think what made us work in the past was not completely have edited that live and direct. You see, yeah, first time on here, and I'm doing stuff that I would ever believe I could do. But technical, you kind of learn. So yeah, I believe number one, look at the environment, look at what's going on in the environment, and choose a business that connects with the environment of the economy and the state of affairs. So there are a lot of businesses like that. There's fintech instruments that you could be you form your own version of PayPal and connect with the new currencies like BRICS that we're talking about. It could be you start a company that creates an e-commerce platform for businesses that want to try and sell online. There are millions of companies in different territories like Africa and Asia who are still not selling online. And I think that's going to be a big thing going into 2025, that a lot of companies will understand the importance of trading globally. So you will have that opportunity to kind of get into a market where you can be creating businesses in that market. So yeah, think about how you can incorporate AI and new emerging markets into your business plan. New emerging markets, like we expanded to 15 countries, including Africa. Africa, to me, represents one of the biggest markets that has been untapped for ages. And I think this is the time for Africa to rise. It's the best kept secret. And I think this is the time. Number two, cash is going to be useless in 2025, 26, 27, 28, 29, going to 2030. As much as I like cash, because obviously you can actually touch it and you can, control where it goes. For me, cash has been king and queen. However, things are changing. And as you can see, most of you are doing transactions now online, using cards, using apps. It's all a numbers game now, right? People are not printing. The World Bank and the national banks of countries are not printing as much currency as they used to print previously. And I don't want to go right deep into the rabbit hole. If you actually research money and you understand that it was all a big scam in the first place, because obviously legal tender money should have been backed by gold, as in if you are printing a paper, the value of that paper should be backed by the gold that the bank has got. But when you do your investigations, you find out that most of the currency that was being printed wasn't backed by the gold, because there wasn't that much gold. If someone's printing 100 billion pounds and their country hasn't got 100 billion pounds worth of gold, then you're just printing paper. Has no value. But obviously, if you have an international accepted, idea of value, which is what the legal tender and the promissory notes are about. Like each country will accept it based on the fact that there is a perceived value, meaning there is something there. I believe that you're giving me this £20 or £20 million because you have 20 million worth of gold and your country says it has it. And so one day, if we ask you to produce it, you're going to show it to us, which will never happen. So walking out of that, I think number two is real estate, because cash is no longer valuable. I think real estate is where people should invest in terms of business. So if you're starting a business in real estate, I would say it could be a very lucrative business. It's always been a lucrative business, but in this day and age, it'll be a very lucrative business. My way of investing in real estate is kind of unconventionally different. And a lot of people invest in properties to sell, right? And I believe that's a mistake, because the more you're buying and the more you're selling, your value also goes back to cash. So you are confident that you have millions of pounds in the account, in your bank account, and that makes you feel confident. But the thing is, once that currency is devalued, it's worthless. It's happened in so many countries where, for example, several years ago, 1 million could buy you a loaf of bread in Zimbabwe. So everybody was a millionaire. So what happened was the value of their currency had devalued so much so that them printing billions and millions of paper, it made no sense. It just had no value. So investing in assets as a business is about registering a company and getting your company to buy into real estate, either commercial or residential or land. And it doesn't have to be, I mean, obviously we're based in the UK, but it doesn't have to be in the UK. It could be in other countries. I mean, I have properties all across the world because I feel like the world is your oyster, right? And, most people just tend to want to invest where they live. And I just think that's I mean, when you go on holiday, where are you going on holiday? You're going on holiday to other countries. And where do you always want to, what does everyone say when they get successful? Oh, I just want to go on holiday. I want to travel. Right. Why don't you invest in properties where you want to travel to? So I think that's a really key investment. Number two, I think invest in real estate, and also invest in all commercial buildings and turn that into residential. What's happening is that after COVID, a few years ago, a lot of people, and we found that in our offices around the world as well, a lot of people got used to working from home, and you have a 50% return rate to the office. 50% of our staff are happy to come back to the office, and the other 50% are just so used to working from home that they prefer to work from home, and you can't force someone to do what they don't want to do. So you have that going on right now, and so most of the commercial properties that were previously used for banks, used for shopping centers, used for offices, businesses, etc., are no longer be occupied. This is where you come in, right? So those are prime properties to get at a really, really cheap rate, and then you can convert them into residential properties, because residential properties will always be in style. People need to stay somewhere and live. Home is home. No one wants to live outside in the cold. They need to live inside. Number three, instead of launching a business, why not think of a social enterprise? A social enterprise is a mixture of a business and a charity, I would say, right? So it's a business that has a social cause. So it's a business you do that at its core wants to help people, right? Now, I know a lot of people will come and say, well, and that what all businesses do, all businesses are there to help people. Yes, not all the fingers in your hands are the same. Some businesses are there to help people, but some businesses are there to help people with a huge commercial interests. It's all about the commercial gains. They need to make profit, and not just profit, they need to make 100% profit. Whereas there are other businesses who are social enterprises, which steer more in the charity side of things, that are there really to end situations in the world that are detrimental to the well-being of people. So, for example, an amazing idea for a business will be to create a business for homelessness. And John Bird, or Sir John Bird, as he's known, we've worked with them before in the past, did something similar years and years ago by creating a company called The Big Issue. Now, The Big Issue in the UK was created by John Bird, and this company published magazines called The Big Issue. And what they did was they offered jobs to homeless people. So they printed copies, like maybe 100 or 300,000 copies of magazines were being distributed on a daily basis. And all you had to do was come to the Big Issue office, pick up your own bunch of magazines as a homeless person, as long as you register as a homeless person. And you were able to now go to um, anywhere outside train stations, outside tube stations, and actually distribute those magazines and sell those magazines to people. And it actually led to a lot of people coming out of homelessness, because you found psychologically, if people were more willing to support a homeless person trying to make a living than a homeless person just sat down and not using any part of their mind, body, and soul to try and make a living or try and get themselves out of the situation. So you being seen as being homeless and actually working actually created a reason for people to support you. So that's an example. There are loads of examples of social enterprises that I think you can launch in 2025 that will make a profit for you, but also will directly help a cause. And it could be a 50-50 split. You know, there are loads of social enterprises who are also 100% profitable. They don't split the profits between themselves and, the recipient that is underprivileged. My idea for a good business in 2025 is to do something that's half and half, where you do a 50% split, where the equivalent of the persons underprivileged, the people you're serving, get 50% of the profits, and the other 50% becomes your profit. I think those kind of businesses which have the emotional intelligence and have a connection to helping people properly, not just helping people in general solve a problem, but helping people that need help, will be very successful in 2025. So that's 3. 4, I believe that in 2025, you need to increase on your spiritual life. A lot of people say, what's that got to do with business? As I started the live, I believe that you cannot function as a successful business without the help of God. So I think one of the most important things to do in 2025 at number 4 is to connect spiritually with God, right? How that looks for you is up to you. For me, when I say connect spiritually with God, is actually going out there and digging the knowledge and really going out there and learning the origins of everything else that's going on. And then learning as well the origins of sin. I'm actually writing a book that's out next month called Why Do We Sin? And what I had to do for 2024 was learn the origins of sin. Where did sin come from? Why do we sin? Why do we live in a material world? Why do we live in a world that really promotes sin, and everything is turned upside down for us now to believe that, sin is a good thing, and actual evil is what's being promoted, and good is actually seen as not being cool. What kind of world do we live in? So that's why I think it's so important to go into a deep awareness and connection with the Most High, so you can learn. Because at the end of the day, you're living in times where anything can happen. A lot of people call it the end times, and end times could be on a Christian religion level or just on a spiritual level where people are waking up to the reality of what some might call the matrix of what's going on around you, that everything is being programmed, everything has been a lie. Your whole educational system has been set out to make you live a slave life, right? So I think finding God is such an important thing. Searching for your spiritual connection with God is so important. Praying more is so important. Letting God lead you in terms of the right business idea to go for, what your goals should be. I don't know about you. If I had somebody who has access to my past, present, and future, who's able to see what's going to happen tomorrow, 6 months from now, 6 years from now, 7, 8, 10, 20 years from now, I would trust in that person to tell me what business idea I should go to or go forward with, instead of just relying on my own capability. And that's what I've always done. I've always said, trust in God and he will drive that car for you, right? Trusting in yourself is not the best idea. So I always think that's the way forward, right? Number 5 on, is it good to start a business in 2025, and why we should start a business, or how you should start a business and how you should do it in the right way with the right motives. Number five is get rid of education. Controversial, but true. Now, I came from a very educational background. If anyone knows my story, I was lucky enough for my mom to take us out of the educational system because she actually looked at us. Basically, what happened was when we were born in London, my mom took us to like nursery, as you do, and when one day she went to pick us up and she just saw that they just put us in front of a TV just to watch the TV, and she said to herself, "You know what? I am not indoctrinating my kids like this. I am going to start my own school." She started her own nursery, and then she started her own school, and then she started her own primary school. And then when we got ready for college, she started her own college. In fact, the only thing she didn't start is a university, which I then started a university. But I say this to say, why number 5 is education is because I believe that the educational system has been the number one cause of depression in human beings. I repeat, the educational system has been the number one cause of depression in human beings. Let me explain. I really believe that when you go to a school, a college, a university, what you're being taught is a program to basically make you a slave to whatever it is, to slave to science, if you're doing sciences, a slave to geography, if you're majoring geography, a slave to history, so you're just like packed with knowledge about the past, a slave to, I mean, the list goes on. What university, college, and school doesn't teach you about is the power of your mind, your body, your soul. In fact, I can go as far as saying you're never going to be taught about what happens when you sleep. You're never going to be taught about what happens when you dream. You're never going to be taught about how to become wealthy, and that wealth means health and money, riches. That together is very important. If you haven't got good health, consider yourself not healthy, because health and wealth is the same. You need both. You need health and you need riches to be wealthy. Universities, colleges, and schools teach you how to compete, right? And the most important thing I say to people every time I lecture in unis or I get called to do conferences or seminars or workshops is that the notion of competition is a poison. I repeat, the notion of competition is a poison. Always looking back, looking left, looking right at what everybody else is doing will make you have an accident. You cannot focus when you're driving straight forward to a location, to a destination, whilst looking left and right. You have to focus. Everyone's path, everyone's journey, everyone's destination is completely different. And comparing, competing is the downfall of mankind. If you want to go all the way back to Abel and Cain, or Cain and Abel, comparing gifts. I gave God this gift and he didn't like it, or he liked this better. All of this competition and comparing is what has led us in a world that we're not satisfied. And it all comes from the educational system, because it taught us to look at ourselves and compete. You're writing an exam to regurgitate information that someone else has told you to program into your head. And when you pass that exam, the reason why you pass the exam is because you didn't use your own insight, your own knowledge. You used the knowledge of someone else's brain that they've put in a book to tell you that this is correct. So A plus A equals 1 plus 1 equals 2. And I'm not going to argue about that, because it's 1 plus 1 equals 2. I am not going to think of a different equation or anything else that can happen. So everything is contrived and is all boxed off, and you're not allowed to think outside the box. And that's what education is, and you're just allowed to compete. So I digress. Number 5 is get rid of education. If you're going to college, if you're going to primary university, I would just advise you to train yourself. The difference between now and the 80s and the 70s is that everything you're studying at school and uni, by the time you leave uni, has become defunct, because literally the world is changing every second. By the time we get up tomorrow morning, there are 10 million new things that you need to learn. Why not just invest in learning every day, just learning the new things every day? Train yourselves in the industries as they change, as they progress. So you're an expert in change and adapting in change. I think that's so important. Number 6. So we are climbing that ladder very easily. Number 6, by the way, guys, is our first live stream. We are on YouTube and Twitch. I think this is a point to say, guys, subscribe. Subscribe to the channel. I have never done this before. But there will be a lot of, stuff like this happening. I will be, doing a lot. And if you are tuned in, let us know. Yeah, let us know where you're tuning from. Again, I've never done this before, so it's very new to us. And I think I started with the best topic you can start with. I think this topic is so important because a lot of people are wondering what they're going to be doing. So I was just checking the stream just to make sure it's actually streaming. So my name is Jordan Kensington again. Just to recap with you guys, the name of the title of this show is Business versus Religion. Is it a good idea to start a business in 2025? Is it a good idea to start a business in 2025? We are 2 months from the end of the year. I thought for the first live stream, I think this is such a good one to start with. I've counted down from number 1, and now we are on number 6. Number 6 on the list of things to do in 2025 is, believe it or not, farming. Yeah, you are what you eat. Why farming? Look, farming is going to be so important in the future. And those who invest in farming will reap the benefits. The reason being is there is a monopoly of where our food is coming from now. There is literally a lot of people taking over this part of our well-being, and food is important. People have to eat. No matter what you might want to fast for years, you still have to eat at some point. And the problem why I say this is a monopoly is because most of the food we're eating today is basically poison. You are what you eat. And unfortunately, the food we're being served today and the food we're buying today, the fruits we're buying today, some of the food we are buying have loads of chemicals, stimulants, additives, and things in it that are making people sick. The fruits that are being planted in the farms have a lot of pesticides being sprayed on them that are making people sick. So, farming is actually one of the best businesses I would advise people to get to in 2025. And it doesn't matter whether you are an urban farmer, which an urban farmer is someone who's learning how to farm in a small space they have. They traditionally will be living in a city without access to a huge space. Or you could be a country farmer like we are. So, I bought huge hectares of land, and we started farming already. We have loads of pecan, peaches, apple. There's going to be so much more we're going to, be using the farm for. And I think, that's going to be so important. And getting the seeds early, because if you research on seeds, unfortunately, that always is a market that is being taken and ripped apart, where seeds are being taken from Africa to Europe and being coded. So the seeds are actually being coded in such a way that it becomes a genetically modified seed. So when it comes back and you're growing that seed cannot be recycled, which is really bad. And that's just what European companies are doing. And they always get involved and interfere with things that are natural, because you shouldn't be coding seed. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, do your research on it. There are loads of seeds that you imagine. Africa is the most fertile place, and most farming and agriculture. Africa traditionally fed the West, and they should have all the seeds. They should have monopoly on the seed. The seeds are important because if you need to farm, you need to plant, you need to use seeds to plant. But why do we have to buy seeds from the West? The West have, the farming in the West is not as prevalent as in continents like Africa that've got good soil and good agriculture. Why do you have to buy your seeds? Because they are taking a monopoly in that market. So investing in pure organic natural farming, I actually don't like using the word organic because it's actually been hijacked. And organic actually, when you look into it, it actually is part of that coding of seeds. So I think it's important to get into farming and get into natural farming and make sure you have it within you to kind of really protect your seeds and protect what you're cultivating. Less is more. I know sometimes when you buy hectares of land, you decide you want to just plant everything. We have a variety of stuff in our farm, but we want to stick to stuff that are durables and consumables that if you had an issue with the world, like for example famine or something like that, you can actually have a ton loads of this. For example, in one of our hectares of properties, we have pecan, and pecan are like nuts that they actually sell in Tesco's and Sainsbury's. A little small packet is sold for like £3 or £4. Now we've got acres and acres and hectares of it, which is a blessing. Thank God for it. So we can have bags and bags, and you can do almost anything with pecan. You can do oil, you can do soup, you can do shampoo, you could eat it. So it's like coconut. Coconut is another one that if you have a fertile ground for coconut, coconut is such an amazing investment, because you can do coconut water, you can do coconut oil, you can use coconut as toothpaste, with if you don't want to use toothpaste with fluoride in it for obvious reasons. I'm sure you can do your own research on that. So that's a huge investment. Farming, I would say, is really something that I would advise people to look into as a huge industry to investing in 2025. At number seven, of what ideas in terms of business you should be investing in 2025. Number seven, I would say travel. Travel is an industry that I quite like this part of it. Now, literally, I'm coming straight into it. Travel is an industry that will never go out of style because if you ask anybody, everybody loves to travel. Let's be real. You love to travel. You're watching this right now. If you could be anywhere in the world, where will that be? Right? Comments, right? Everybody loves to travel. So travel is an industry, and I would say probably I say travel and tourism because when I say travel, a lot of people just think about just traveling. Traveling is great, but tourism is better, right? Being able to curate your travel is something. I think after the last few years of COVID and lockdown, a lot of people can't wait to visit certain countries. So a lot of people have just gone into travel. They just want to travel to a lot of places. However, time is money. Time is luxury. I mean, you can't book a flight to go to Brazil and get to Brazil and have no knowledge of what you are going to be doing in Brazil. And a lot of people say, you know what, actually like to go with the flow, but they find out the people that say they like to go with the flow end up going to all these countries and coming back and regretting that they didn't see as much as they would have liked to see because they were under the impression that we just see what happens. It's just great. It's no point planning. Just go to Brazil or go to Mexico and just see what happens. Unfortunately, I don't believe that's the best way of traveling. That's why I believe there is a huge business there. The people that are already doing it are making extreme amounts of money. I think the business of travel and tourism is where you curate someone's travel, where you say, all right, cool. You want to go to Brazil? Okay, I'm going to have an itinerary for you. How long you want to be in Brazil for? A week. Okay. In that week in Brazil, I want to make sure it's one of the best weeks you've ever had. But most importantly, I want to make sure your time is being used in the most fun way possible. So you're not going to spend hours and hours trying to look for something to do and waste those hours. Like every minute counts, right? And you will have fun, but it will be like as soon as you get to the airport, even someone's waiting for you at the airport with a card with your name in it, gets you in the car, you're on your way to the resort. There's dinner booked for 7 p.m. The next morning, it's an itinerary for all the spots you need to see. You're going to the zoo, you're going to the best restaurant, you're going to the highest mountain, you're going to see this tourist attraction, then you're going to this place, you're going to this event that's been booked for you. These things are all curated. And then obviously within the curation, you have your spare time to do whatever you want to do as well. And you don't actually have to follow the curated itinerary, but it's there to make sure you have a guided flow throughout. So you have the huge amount of excitement and fun and memories. Traveling is about memories, having those kind of curated, amazing memories that you can take back with you. So I think that's going to be a huge business in 2025. People will want to travel more. So I think that's an industry that I would advise people to go into. And always look at the areas and countries that nobody thinks about. Like, for example, years and years ago, I think it was about maybe 9 or 10 years ago, the Tourist Board of Samoa invited me to Samoa, and we went to a city called Tatua. And Tatua basically has a history of a city where tattoo was founded, right? So all these tattoos that people have, I don't have tattoos personally, but all these tattoos that people have, the origins come from Tatua, which is a place in Samoa. And this place, we actually witnessed what they believe they do with their tattoos is not just like the West and just a fashion accessory. For them, it's a rite of passage. It's a really spiritual journey where a young kid has to tattoo themselves from the bottom of their legs all the way to here, right? Literally go through that pain, and it's like a rite of passage. And we witnessed a lot of that, and it was quite crucial. And there's a lot of other things like the culture. We learned so much, but it was so good to go with a tourist board and to go with a promotional travel agency, because we got to learn, enjoy, have fun, and you get the highlights. And sometimes maybe I'm a lazy traveler, but I just really believe that what's the point going somewhere and just you don't know what to do and you're just discovering. Discovering is great, but discovering um, curating your discovery is actually much more greater. I think the older you get, you see the you appreciate that more. It's not like when you were 18 or 19 and say, "Hey, I'm going to Cavus or I'm going to Ibiza." Yeah, that's just different. Ibiza, you got a Cavus, High Napa, you're just going to club. I'm talking about having a travel experience, and that's why I think that's going to be a huge business come 2025. And I think that's something that I will encourage people to look into, really going into that kind of business. Right. So we are on to number 8. And number 8 is what I'm doing here, content creation, right? Um, Content creation has always been king and queen, right? I've always, if you, I mean, to be honest, what I'm doing now, I can go back to us probably being one of the first companies that to start an online streaming platform for television and radio back in the 90s before YouTube existed, before Twitch existed. I would say we were very early in the game, right? If we'd done what you were doing there now, we probably would have been bigger than the YouTubes and Twitch. We were streaming in those days, and we didn't call it streaming. We didn't call it podcasting. We have videos of ourselves back in the 90s doing exactly what I'm doing now. Um, and we do it 24 hours a day with DJs and radio, people coming in, and everyone looked down at internet streaming. Where we had a radio station called Invincible Radio, broadcasting from East London to the world. We had listeners tuning to Invincible Radio in the 90s from across the world, and we were communicating with people I remember there's a listener we had in New York that flew all the way from New York, DJ Shane, or Concord, flew all the way to come to our radio station because they tuned in and been listening for years. We also had a TV station before YouTube ever existed, a TV station that was streaming online. So content was always king of queen, and we understood the value of content. And we've just seen a resurgence. Everything always comes back in style, and it's become crazy. Now, I really believe that in order to succeed in the world of content moving forward, it's going to be about niches. Before, you can just get online and talk about anything, right? And people will be like, "Oh yeah, that's great. Like you just talk about anything, and it'll be fantastic." I think now it's about niches. You need to have a niche. You need to really have an area that you are kind of focused on. It can't just be anything goes, right? So I think niches is going to be important. It doesn't matter whether you're into dogs and you want to do a dog channel and your niche is about dogs. You're going to find a community that's into dogs. Whatever you're into, as long as it's positive, as long as it's going to be inspiring people, it's going to be motivating people, I think that's the way forward. And I also think there's got to be I think, for example, on a YouTube platform, what I found was a lot of people are striving to get monetized. So if you started your own YouTube channel, what people do now is just like, I need to get the viewers, I need to get subscribers, I need to get money for monetized, and that tends to be the only thing that people think about. And I really think that's the wrong way of doing it. I think if you want to go into this as a business, think about, I need to create a platform similar to what CNN is, similar to what MTV was, creating a platform that becomes so successful that you don't actually need to be monetized. You're now a brand in itself, that brands come to you, right? When you become a brand yourself because you've created a platform that's so successful, what happens? You're going to get brands coming to you because brands want to work with you. Brands want to work with someone who's extremely successful. So I really believe that is one of the ways, one of the things I would advise people to do, really go into, creating content, right? Now, not all content is the same, right? Not all content hits different. And a lot of people, you know, will dance, not judging anyone, but you go and do a little dance clip on TikTok and it goes viral and you're like, hey, you know what? I'm going to be doing dance clips now. The thing about that is that there has always been viral moments. It just wasn't called viral moments, right? Is we call it a fad, right? There's always things that happen that everybody starts doing, whether it's the chicken dance or whether it's the Gangnam style. You know, you can do a Gangnam style, but it will be hard for you to keep doing Gangnam styles. So I always think it, in your quest to create content, don't just be thinking about viral pieces or things to do to make people just to get yourself viral and that. You know what I mean? That's a good thing. If you have content that goes viral, amazing, great. But that's not the key. That's not the epicenter of it. Creating a brand with your content strategy, I think, is the way forward. I think is what you should be doing. If you actually want to be successful at this, focus on creating a brand. Focus on creating a brand that will last the test of time. I think that's the most important thing to do. And that's 8. So 8 is content is king and queen, right? So create a brand. I think that's one of the things that will be successful in 2025. Okay, so we are down to number 9. You see, I'm not even reading from anything. I'm going from the top of my head, right? So, see, I'm always cool about this live stream thing. I hope this is going well so far. Don't forget, guys, if you're watching this live stream back on either Twitch or YouTube, subscribe to my YouTube, watch the other videos on the channel, right? Because look, if you want to get this kind of good stuff, subscribe, comment, like, engage, right? And that's one of the points I wanted to mention as well on my point on the 8 content. Content is king and queen, right? One of the things I was going to mention on content is king and queen is I saw this video, and the video was about this guy who is someone on Twitch, right? I don't know what his name was, but he's got his Twitch channel, but he's pretty much successful on his Twitch channel, and he averages about 100,000 views a day, right? So he's successful. He's not your Kai Cenats and all that sort of people, but he's pretty much successful. So what he decided to do one day, he was feeling generous, and he decided to go and look for other streamers on Twitch. See, I'm still learning about this whole malarkey, but yeah, he decided to look for other streamers on Twitch, and then he fell onto this streamer who effectively had been streaming for like 3 years, and he'd been streaming to an audience of 0, right? Like literally nobody was watching him, and he's been doing that for 3 years. And he decided to go and look for streamers that had 0 streams on Twitch, and then watch this guy's stream and commented and started talking live to the guy. And this was the first time that had ever happened. So for 3 years, this guy was twitching, and nobody had ever done that ever before. And this guy went ballistic. He went crazy, and he didn't just do that. He actually donated like £100. I don't know how you do it on stream, and I'm still new to this stuff. I know you can donate, and he donated £100 to this guy whilst being live on air, and honestly, the guy broke down crying because obviously he'd been doing it for 3 years and nobody had done that ever. He's not, even his friends and family, nobody's tuned in. And that clip of him breaking down and just crying for receiving just one viewer after like 3 years of going live, what a tenacity. That went viral. And then obviously people watched that clip and then decided to go and support him more. And now he started getting viewers, he started getting monetized, etc., etc. Which leads me quite to the point of if you want to be a good content king or queen, so you want to really create and become successful at it, you need to support others. Yes. You don't just start your channel and say, right, that's it. Go and watch other people's channels, right? Especially the Twitch streamers and the people on live, YouTube live, who've got 0 people watching them, and make friends, okay? Remember I said this idea of competition is stupid, right? Just make friends. Hey, I just found your channel. I'm going around the people who have 0 streams in your channel to make friends. I'll watch your channel, right? When you've got time, would you commit to watching my channel too? And if you are talking to decent people, most people will be like, thank you so much for coming to my channel. I'm going to watch, I'm going to subscribe to your channel now. Now, imagine doing that thousands of times. You're going to make thousands of friends. And then what you're going to be doing is that you're going to be watching each other's channels. And that's how it starts. You're going to be sharing my stuff. I'm going to be sharing your stuff. He's going to be sharing my stuff. She's going to be sharing. And we all start. And one day we all are going to join together on a massive stream together and bring everybody's niche audience and say, hey, how did you guys internet meet? We met by showing each other love, because before you get to that level, you need to unify. And I think that's one of the most important top secrets. Go and unify with others like yourself and make friends and get them to support you, and you support them too, right? So yeah, so content is king or queen is how you do it. Is you need to support each other, and you need to find other people who are like you, who are starting out, and go and support them, go and subscribe to your channel. Don't just sit down and start creating content and say, hey, I'm just waiting for everyone to come to me. Right. So does everybody. Everybody else is also waiting for everyone to come to them. You need to go out there, create, right? And with that being said, if you subscribe DM, you can be part of my club, right? My community. I am creating a community of content creators that will do exactly that. The community is called Telephonos. The Telephonos community will be us going and supporting each other's streaming, live streams, YouTube channels, and much more. I think that's what's needed within the content creator community. I think that's so important. Yeah, so that's 8. Right. We're moving quite swiftly on to number 9, right? In ideas that you can launch in 2025. Right. So number 9 is what I like to call the you and me economy. What do I mean? Let me repeat. The you and me economy. Number 9 is the you and me economy. What is the you and me economy? The you and me economy is we are the business. Cut the middleman, right? You know, one thing I saw, and I saw a huge growth on in the recent years, is like Facebook Marketplace, Facebook Marketplace, where people sell unused items. You'll be so surprised. There's so much things that you've got that's standing in cupboards and underneath tables and beds and things that you don't use anymore, clothes and much more. Um, Getting into that business of recycling stuff, because one man's trash is another person's gold, diamonds, or wonderful things. And we've seen companies that have launched in this sector really become successful. So, for example, there's an app called Vinted, and Vinted is where a lot of people sell secondhand clothes, and it's become really successful because there's a lot of people that have bought clothes and they don't wear it. They've not worn it for 10, 20 years, and it's sat there in the locker doing nothing. Why don't you sell it? Somebody else would bid for it and they want to buy it. And it's not just clothes, there's furniture, there's shoes, there's so much more. So in an era where people are trying to be more or less materialistic, selling secondhand or buying and selling secondhand stuff is going to be a huge marketplace. I have known companies who have done this in the antiques trade, and they've made millions, right? And all they did was just basically just trading antiques and furniture. And what they did was like they targeted, people that have inherited houses, and someone's selling a painting of Picasso, but they just inherited it, but they have no idea what Picasso is. They have no idea what a Mona Lisa painting is, and they sell it to this antiques company. That's just literally so exciting because they have the right customer to buy this product. So that market is such an underplayed market that I think will be such a big market in 2025. And you can also sell on Telephonos. Telephonos.com is our own network platform where you can actually create a profile for yourself and start selling. We've just introduced a marketplace on Telephonos.com, so you can actually start selling on there. You can just create a profile and start selling in the marketplace instantly. and you start trading whatever you want to sell at home. You just take a picture of it, upload a picture, and that's it. And bingo, it could be anything, really and truly. You'd be so surprised at things that people want, and people want to buy secondhand. Most people are not interested in buying it new anymore because they just know there is actually more value in buying it secondhand than buying it new for obvious reasons. You can name, I mean, firstly, the price is going to be much more lower than your usual price if you're buying it new. And secondly, you get to form a trade. You get to be part of a trading community, which you can also sell things to that community. So you're not just a principal customer like most companies want to target. So, for example, if you are on I don't know, buying on the traditional shops in the high street, you're just the customer. You're not engaging in making any profits. You're just spending your money. But a buy and sell community is so important in 2025 in terms of a business strategy, because you get to actually invite people to take part in the you and me economy, which is, I think, is one of the biggest things. Okay, so that was 9. So we reached number 10, right? Number 10 is actually not a business idea. Number 10 is actually going by something I said at the start. And I think it's so important to kind of reiterate that, because I said the title of the show is Business versus Religion. Is it a good idea to start a business in 2025? So number 10, I'm going to go back again and focus on faith. We live in a world that's unpredicted. Whether it's Russia fighting Ukraine, or whether it's what's happening in Palestine, Gaza, and Israel, or whether it's what's happening in Iran, or what's happening in America with the elections and politics, Trump, Kamala Harris. We live in a world that's very unpredictable. Whether it's pandemics, whether it's lockdowns, whether it's the list goes on. Now, to live in a world that's unpredictable, you have to have your protection on point. Unfortunately, religion has also been, and that's why I say the title was Business versus Religion. Religion has also been the downfall of mankind. Most of the wars have been fought because of religion. The Catholic Church has been responsible for a lot of crimes around the world. A Catholic Church, not just the Catholic Church, most other religions have engaged into wars, and there's been a lot of mine is better than yours and all that sort of things going on. So I think moving into 2025 and focusing on number 10 is, my advice will be to really connect spiritually with God, the Most High. Really understand that if you hear or read in the Bible, in Quran, in church, or any historical books, that the God we serve, the God we come from, has any negative or evil bone, that's not the same God we're talking about. The God we come from is 100% love, light, happiness, peace. Everything that is of good is from God. Our work in this world, while we're here in this human avatar we call the body, is to transcend this into the spiritual, which is the spirit, the soul, your soul consciousness. So number 10 is doing away with this idea notion of organized religion, where you are basically worshiping idols, right? Some churches have statues in it, or you're worshiping a cross, or you are speaking to a deity that's not our Heavenly Father. We have to do our research and connect with God directly. They say sometimes you have to go in peace in a quiet place and get to know God. I think that's one of the most important things at number 10 we should do. Get to know God, get to know the origins, get to know how you can connect with Him properly, get to know how to pray properly. Not what you were taught how to pray, but how to pray properly to make sure your prayers are connected and answered by God. How to humble yourself, how to get rid of ego, how to get rid of pride, how to get rid of sin, how to get rid of anger. A lot of people have anger issues, and you don't understand that's connected to a demon called Asmodeus. I've not pronounced the name right, but there is a demon that's connected to anger. So we have to learn all those stuffs. It's so important. And I am writing a book called Why Do We Sin? Right? And that's out next month. And I think it will be so important for everybody to get that book because it will show you truly how to connect. And one of the biggest things that you can do moving into 2025 is to ask for repentance, going back to, from when you were childhood up till now, and ask for repentance for all the sins, because we are all sinners. And whatever you're trying to do in your life, which is your business, trying to help feed your family, trying to help be successful in life, you can't just do that without the clean slate. You have to do right by God. You have to go with a clean slate. You have to go and say, hey, I'm born again. I'm starting again. I'm starting afresh. I really want to pray for myself and what I've been through and what I've sinned in the past, for repentance, and ask God for repentance and ask God to show you the love. So yeah, I hope that was very useful for someone. That was my first live stream on YouTube and Twitch. We're getting a hang of this. There's going to be more live streams coming. But I think for the first one, there was no scripts involved. I just went straight in and no rehearsal. I just said, you know what? We got to start this live stream one way or the other. So my name is Jordan Kensington. It's been great speaking to you guys. You can watch this back on the YouTube channel. Again, this title of the show was called "Is It a Good Idea to Start a Business in 2025?" And you can watch this back, clip it, share, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend, or keep it a secret and keep it locked to the channel. And I see you guys very soon. I'm out. Have a good rest of the week.